Late-night internet browsing can lead to strange places, especially on marketplaces like eBay. Among the endless listings of vintage furniture, retro video games, and old collectibles, some users have stumbled across something far more unsettling: haunted items. These listings often appear mundane at first glance: a porcelain doll, a jewelry box, a dusty painting, but a closer look reveals something eerie. The titles alone are enough to send a chill down your spine. Warning: possessed doll. Not responsible for paranormal activity, or cursed mirror do not place near bed. Most people scroll past thinking it's a joke, an attempt to go viral, or maybe even just a creative marketing gimmick. But not everyone. Some are curious, some are daring, some are skeptics who want to prove a point, and some are collectors who specifically seek out these haunted items for their supposed spiritual energy or supernatural backstories. These listings are often accompanied by lengthy descriptions from the sellers, who typically go out of their way to warn potential buyers. It's not unusual to see a paragraph describing sleepless nights, strange noises, sudden illnesses, or shadows seen moving across the room. Sellers insist they're only parting with the item out of desperation, because keeping it has brought misfortune to their homes and families. In many cases, these listings contain detailed stories. One seller claimed that a doll moved locations by itself, and whenever it was locked away, scratching noises could be heard from behind the door. Another said that a vintage mirror always fogged up with words written on the glass, even in a cold, dry room. These aren't just simple ghost stories. They often include accounts of actual injuries, deaths in the family, or repeated bad luck that only began once the item entered the home, and it doesn't stop there. Some sellers say they had the item spiritually cleansed or blessed, but that it made things worse. Others upload blurry photos showing orbs, faces, or strange distortions in the reflection. Some even go so far as to include recordings of unexplained whispers or static they claim came from the item itself. These stories are told with such conviction and emotional detail that they start to feel less like marketing and more like desperate warnings. The haunted listings tend to attract a particular kind of audience: paranormal investigators, amateur, ghost hunters, and fans of the occult often monitor eBay for new haunted listings, sometimes competing in bidding wars to acquire the most active objects. For these buyers, the more terrifying the backstory, the better. There are entire YouTube channels and TikTok accounts devoted to unboxing and testing haunted eBay items, with creators filming themselves sleeping next to dolls that are said to move at night or investigating cursed jewelry under thermal cameras and EMF detectors. But there's a darker side to this curiosity. Some buyers report that the moment they receive the item, strange things begin happening in their own homes. Objects go missing, lights flicker, pets act afraid, or they start having violent nightmares. These are often the same buyers who thought the listing was just for fun. When they try to resell or return the item, they find no takers, or worse, discover that the object mysteriously comes back, even after being thrown away. In one well-known account, a buyer claimed they burned a haunted doll only to find it reappearing on their porch the next day, untouched by fire. The sheer volume of these haunted listings is surprising. On any given day, a search for haunted or cursed items on eBay turns up dozens of results. While some listings are clearly fake, with exaggerated claims and staged photos, others seem oddly sincere. Many of the sellers use anonymous profiles, avoiding identification and providing vague contact details. Some listings have been active for months, while others vanish quickly, either sold or mysteriously deleted. Harold the doll is one of the most infamous haunted items ever sold online, and its story has left a deep mark on the world of paranormal collectors. First listed on eBay in 2003, Harold appeared to be nothing more than an old, beat-up doll. Its appearance wasn't particularly terrifying: worn clothes, glassy eyes, and a faded smile. But what set it apart was the chilling warning in the item description. The original seller didn't just claim the doll was haunted. He blamed it for illness, strange voices, terrifying nightmares, and even death. He said he couldn't keep it in his house any longer and needed to get rid of it before something worse happened. The listing went viral quickly, sparking massive curiosity and skepticism. Some believed it was just an elaborate hoax, while others felt there was something seriously wrong with the doll. The seller included details that made the story hard to ignore. He claimed that shortly after acquiring Harold at a flea market, he began hearing children's voices in the middle of the night, even though no children lived nearby. His cat refused to go near the room where the doll was kept. Friends who visited the home reported feeling nauseous or anxious in its presence. One even suffered a panic attack after holding it. A few weeks after bringing the doll home, the seller said he began suffering from unexplained migraines and fatigue. Doctors couldn't find anything wrong. Then, his relationship fell apart. He started having vivid nightmares, always involving the same figure, a young boy with pale eyes who would whisper in an unknown language. When the seller tried to throw the doll away, he said it would reappear in his house either in a closet or sitting on the bed. Eventually, out of desperation, he put it up for sale online, warning that whoever bought it should know what they were getting into. After it sold, the new owner, a paranormal investigator named Anthony Quinata, began documenting his experiences with Harold in a series of online posts and interviews. Quinata said that he too experienced strange phenomena, including electronic devices malfunctioning around the doll and physical symptoms such as nausea and headaches. He brought Harold to multiple psychics and mediums, many of whom claimed the doll was inhabited by more than one spirit, some harmless, some malevolent. One psychic reportedly screamed and refused to touch it, saying she saw visions of abuse and suffering attached to the object. Quinata began taking Harold on investigations and testing it under controlled environments. In several documented cases, EMF readers and temperature sensors reacted strongly when placed near the doll, even when all electronics were turned off. On one occasion, a photographer said her camera stopped working entirely while trying to take a picture of Harold. When it finally turned back on, the resulting images were distorted with strange white streaks and static. Others who encountered the doll reported seeing shadowy figures in the corners of the room or hearing a child crying faintly from nowhere. The legend of Harold the doll continued to grow as more people became interested in owning or interacting with haunted objects. Unlike other so-called cursed items, Harold seemed to have a consistent pattern of strange occurrences across multiple owners and environments. This consistency added to the belief that something truly unnatural was attached to the doll. Harold has since been featured in books, documentaries, and paranormal YouTube channels, becoming something of an icon among haunted collectibles. People still reach out to Quinata, claiming they had dreams about Harold or were affected just by looking at a photo of it online. The mystery surrounding the doll has never fully been explained. The Dybbuk box is one of the most notorious haunted items ever discovered, its name whispered among paranormal enthusiasts and horror fans alike. It first came to public attention in the early 2000s when a man named Kevin Mannis listed an antique, a wine cabinet for sale on eBay. The listing was different from typical antique sales. It included a chilling story about how the box was believed to be inhabited by a Dybbuk, a restless, often malevolent spirit from Jewish folklore. According to tradition, a Dybbuk is the dislocated soul of a dead person, one that has not found peace and can attach itself to the living, causing emotional, psychological, or physical torment. Mannis explained in his eBay post that the box had originally belonged to a Holocaust survivor who had brought it to America after World War II. She kept it hidden and warned her family never to open it. When Mannis acquired the box at an estate sale, he had no idea of its history or what it might contain. Out of curiosity, he opened it. Inside were strange items, a lock of hair bound with string, a dried rosebud, a small statue engraved with Hebrew letters, and a golden goblet. These objects seemed ritualistic, like they were part of some ancient practice meant to seal or contain something. Not long after opening the box, Mannis reported a series of disturbing events. He experienced intense nightmares involving a demonic figure, as did his family and friends who came into contact with the box. Lights in his house flickered, strange odors filled the rooms, and electronic devices malfunctioned without explanation. He suffered health problems, including unexplained hair loss. When he gave the box to his mother as a gift, she had a sudden stroke on the same day. That was the moment he realized the object might be more than just an old keepsake. He tried to sell it, but every new owner reported similar or worse experiences. One buyer claimed he had horrific hallucinations and that his house filled with the smell of cat urine despite having no pets. Another said he felt constantly watched and started having panic attacks that led to hospitalization. The string of terrifying testimonials grew, each adding to the legend of the Dybbuk box. Over time, the item was passed between collectors, investigators, and skeptics, all of whom documented their encounters. Some tried religious rituals to cleanse it. Others attempted to seal it permanently. Still, the disturbing activity seemed to follow. The box eventually made its way into the hands of Jason Haxton, the director of a medical museum. Though initially skeptical, Haxton also began experiencing odd health symptoms, including welts and coughing up blood. He had the box studied by scientists and consulted with rabbis and paranormal experts. Some believed it was a powerful conduit for spiritual energy, while others warned it should never have been opened. Haxton eventually encased the Dybbuk box in a protective container and kept it locked away, hoping to neutralize its effects. Its fame reached a wider audience when the story inspired the 2012 horror movie The Possession, which dramatized the concept of a malevolent entity trapped within an antique box. Since then, the Dybbuk box has become a symbol of haunted object lore, often cited in discussions of real-life paranormal artifacts. Its legend was further amplified when it was featured on paranormal TV shows and YouTube documentaries. Even celebrity ghost hunters have tried to interact with it, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. The box is now housed in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, where it remains sealed and on display, surrounded by warnings about its cursed reputation. Visitors report feeling dizzy, anxious, or physically ill just by standing near it, and the stories tied to it continue to grow. Beyond dolls and wooden boxes, haunted items have taken many forms, with paintings, jewelry, and mirrors being among the most frequently reported for causing paranormal disturbances. These objects often appear harmless, even beautiful at first glance. Yet the stories surrounding them are deeply unsettling, and they tend to follow similar patterns. Buyers bringing the item home, only to experience strange occurrences that begin slowly and intensify over time. These experiences range from mild unease to full-blown physical attacks, leading many to believe that objects can carry energy or even spirits long after their original owners are gone. One of the most famous examples is the painting known as The Hands Resist Him. Created in the 1970s by artist Bill Stoneham, the painting features a young boy standing next to a lifeless-looking doll with disembodied hands pressed against a glass door behind them. When it was first listed on eBay, the seller included a warning that the painting was haunted and claimed it had caused night terrors and physical reactions in adults and children alike. The seller's family members reported seeing the figures in the painting move during the night or vanish entirely, only to reappear later in different positions. Some viewers of the online listing claimed they felt nauseous or anxious just from looking at the image. The legend grew quickly, and the painting gained notoriety as one of the most haunted pieces of art ever sold. Jewelry, too, has been at the center of many paranormal stories. Rings, necklaces, and bracelets, often vintage or antique, are thought to absorb energy from the people who wore them. Some of these pieces are linked to tragic events like murder, suicide, or unfulfilled love, and their emotional residue seems to linger. A common belief is that the metal and gemstones in these items are capable of holding onto spiritual imprints, creating a kind of anchor for the supernatural. There are stories of rings that cause intense nightmares, or visions of unknown faces, necklaces that leave bruises on the wearer's neck without explanation, and bracelets that seem to vanish and reappear in different parts of the house. One widely circulated account involves a ring sold by a woman who claimed it had once belonged to a relative involved in dark occult practices. After acquiring it, she started waking up with scratches on her arms and legs. Mirrors have also earned their place in the realm of haunted objects, with many people reporting that antique mirrors are particularly prone to spiritual activity. A mirror is often seen as a portal, something that reflects not just our world, but possibly another one alongside it. In paranormal folklore, mirrors can trap spirits or act as gateways for them to enter a home. A notable case involved a Victorian-era mirror found in an abandoned home in New Orleans. The new owners brought it into their house without thinking much of it, but soon after began noticing odd things. Reflections didn't always match what was in the room. People claimed to see shadowy figures walking behind them in the glass, even when they were alone. One woman reported that when she tried to clean the mirror, her reflection smirked at her, while she kept a neutral expression. Despite multiple attempts to remove the mirror, it would be found back in its place the next morning, as if it had never been touched. The unsettling element common to all these haunted items is the transformation of the ordinary into the terrifying. Something as simple as a family heirloom or an antique from a flea market can become the center of unexplained events. Buyers often go in with no belief in the paranormal, only to find themselves grappling with experiences they can't explain. The stories spread quickly, often gaining traction online as others come forward with similar accounts related to similar types of objects. A recurring pattern among haunted item listings is the behavior of the sellers themselves. Instead of pushing the product or emphasizing its rarity and value, these sellers often do the opposite. They actively discourage people from purchasing the item. It's not uncommon to find listings filled with warnings, disclaimers, and emotional pleas urging potential buyers to reconsider. Phrases like, "buy at your own risk," "I don't recommend keeping this in your home," or "I am not responsible" for what happens after purchase appear frequently, turning what should be a basic sales pitch into something resembling a desperate confession. These warnings set a different tone compared to typical online sales. While most sellers try to make their listings sound appealing, haunted item sellers tend to sound nervous, exhausted, or even scared. Some state openly that they regret ever acquiring the object and only want to be rid of it. One seller of a haunted mirror wrote that he hadn't had a good night's sleep in months and believed the mirror was responsible for a string of bad luck, accidents, and terrifying visions. He warned that whoever took it should keep it covered at all times and avoid looking directly into it in the dark. Another listing for a cursed antique ring featured a description that read more like a diary entry than a product page. The seller recounted how the ring had been passed down in their family, but every person who wore it eventually suffered from severe depression or misfortune. They didn't want money, they just wanted it gone. In fact, many of these sellers offer the item at a very low price or include a clause stating they are not interested in returns, as if they fear the object might find its way back to them. Some sellers describe supernatural retaliation whenever they try to get rid of the object. One claimed that after mailing the item to a buyer, they began hearing banging noises in their home and found the box returned on their doorstep, unopened, even though the tracking number showed it had been delivered. Another seller said that whenever they took photos of the haunted doll they were trying to sell, the images came out blurry or distorted. Their phone began acting strangely. Calls would drop, apps would crash, and the device heated up when left near the doll. There are also cases where sellers have tried to destroy the haunted item before resorting to selling it. Accounts include attempts to burn, bury, or even throw the object into a river, only for the item to mysteriously return. One seller posted a series of photos documenting his efforts to destroy a small wooden idol he believed was cursed. He tried smashing it with a hammer, lighting it on fire and burying it in a remote location, but each time the idol appeared back inside his house, undamaged. Finally, he put it up for sale, with a warning in all caps urging potential buyers not to interact with it unless they were absolutely sure of what they were doing. In many of these listings, the tone is one of genuine distress. Sellers often sound like they're passing along a burden rather than selling a collectible. They sometimes request that the buyer perform a cleansing ritual or contact a spiritual professional before bringing the item into their home. Others go as far as to ask for confirmation that the buyer understands the risk and will not hold the seller responsible for any consequences. This behavior creates an atmosphere of unease around the transaction, making the buyer feel as though they're not simply purchasing an object, but inheriting a history of trauma and fear that the seller is desperately trying to escape. When it comes to haunted items, One of the most compelling aspects is the lingering question of whether these stories are elaborate hoaxes or legitimate encounters with the supernatural. With so many listings on platforms like eBay, Etsy, and other second-hand marketplaces, the line between fiction and reality becomes increasingly blurred. Each haunted item, whether a doll, a piece of jewelry, or an old household mirror, comes with its own unique backstory, and the details are often so specific and emotionally charged that they feel difficult to dismiss entirely. Sellers and buyers alike frequently swear that their experiences are real, that the strange occurrences they endured weren't the product of imagination or suggestion, but something genuinely unexplainable. Skeptics argue that many of these stories are carefully crafted for attention or financial gain. A seller might post a creepy listing, complete with eerie photos and a long, disturbing narrative, in hopes of going viral or increasing the item's value. There's certainly a market for this kind of content, especially in the age of horror. YouTubers and paranormal TikTok creators who seek out haunted items to use in their videos. The more terrifying the story, the more views it generates. Some believe this has led to a wave of fake listings meant purely for entertainment, fueled by clever writing and suggestive imagery, rather than any real supernatural activity. On the other side of the spectrum, there are those who claim to have had personal experiences with haunted objects, experiences that defy logic and explanation. These individuals often describe a sense of dread or unease that began immediately after acquiring the item. They report things like unexplained noises in the house, cold spots, electronics malfunctioning, pets behaving strangely, or feeling watched when they're alone. Some even claim to have seen full apparitions or suffered physical symptoms such as bruises, scratches, or sudden illness. The emotional intensity of their stories suggests they truly believe something beyond the ordinary occurred. Paranormal investigators and psychic mediums have weighed in on the debate, with some asserting that objects can absorb energy from traumatic events or long-term emotional exposure. According to this belief, an item that belonged to someone who suffered deeply, through abuse, grief, or violence, can retain traces of that pain, which may then manifest as paranormal activity. In some cases, psychics claim to have identified spirits attached to specific objects, sometimes even naming them or describing their intentions. These insights are often used to validate a seller's claim that the item is not just haunted, but dangerous. The debate often intensifies when multiple people report similar experiences with the same object. Some haunted items pass through multiple owners, each of whom tells a similar story of unexplained disturbances. When these accounts align without direct communication between the owners, it raises questions that are harder to dismiss. It also contributes to the object's lore, making it more than just a spooky artifact. It becomes a kind of urban legend in its own right. Scientific explanations have also been proposed. Psychologists suggest that the power of suggestion, especially in emotionally charged environments, can cause people to perceive or even manifest experiences that feel real. If someone believes an item is haunted, their heightened awareness and fear might lead them to interpret normal creaks and flickers as something paranormal. This phenomenon, known as confirmation bias, can be powerful enough to create what feels like genuine supernatural activity. Environmental factors such as electromagnetic fields, carbon monoxide leaks, or mold have also been shown to cause symptoms that mimic haunting experiences, such as hallucinations, nausea, and a sense of being watched. Despite the rational explanations, the fascination with haunted items persists. People continue to seek them out, collect them, and share their stories online. The blend of folklore, psychology, and real-life mystery creates a rich space where belief and doubt constantly clash. As long as these stories continue to emerge, the debate over whether haunted items are real or fabricated will remain a compelling and deeply unsettling mystery.